What up? Welcome back to Birds Deep, fresh off of a giant turd. We're going to talk about close out this season, close out where we should go from here. I guess give final grades, who deserves what blame. But first, let me introduce my cohorts here. I got above me Cool McCain from the Eagles Elite Podcast. Say what's up, Cool. And then below me, I got the man, the NFL genius, Mean Gene. Tell him who you are.
Mean! Woo! Gene.
You guys feeling energetic after that flying turd that we had to witness?
It's what needed to happen.
I guess so. Right? It was pretty brutal. Pretty brutal. I mean, it's I think it'd be safe to say for all three of us, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here. We were hoping for some improvement, but in our heart of hearts, in our football hearts, we kind of knew that this was going to be an uphill battle. Once this thing started falling apart, and we were just being, we were like, okay, let's find the positive here, right? I mean, correct me, stop me if I'm wrong, fellows. I don't want to speak for you, but I'm just saying, that's kind of how I think we all felt going into these final 7 weeks. So you jump in, come from the top rope. Tell me how you guys feel. What are you thinking? What's going on?
Cool. You might as well start because you were right the whole time about Sirianni. We were holding out hope. I felt like I was optimistic that things could get turned around. You were absolutely correct about Sirianni. He needs to be fired. We're going to talk about that tonight. For whatever reason, me and Godfrey don't see eye to eye on that. It's just beyond me. But cool. You might as well start, brother, because you were right.
Well, sometimes you don't want to be right, but I saw this year one, so I knew it was going to be something similar moving on now. The problem is he's an idiot. He's a lapdog for the organization. They're not going to get rid of him because if they do, they're going to have to bring in a coach with some experience. Howie doesn't want that because he wants to be able to control everything. So we're going to keep the same idiot. We haven't fired Brian Johnson yet because we're hoping that he gets a job somewhere so we can get some compensatory picks for him as a person of color getting elevated to a head coaching position. So we're in a standing hold right now until they make decisions on the other jobs. But Brian Johnson will not be back next year. And Sirianni will be back because lapdogs don't get fired when they do what their master tells them to do.
By the way, I never said I don't want him fired. I just don't think he will get fired because of how the Eagles operate.
No, I don't think he's going to get fired either. But he needs to be fired, and he's wrong. And it's the problem with the team. I got to argue with some idiot that I work with today. And I'll call him an idiot because he's an absolute moron. But over Sirianni being a good coach. And I said, all right, so just break it down for me. Help me understand. What is a coach's responsibilities? Just like you can start naming them out. There'd be multiple choice. What would be a coach's responsibility?
Manages players in the locker room.
Okay.
Managing his coaches, right? Overall personnel, as far as
Yep.
Having knowledge on whatever side of the ball should be his specialty.
Yep. Offensive side of the ball, right? How about culture? Does that fall on the head coach?
In the locker room, under the locker room, I do believe it does.
How about scheme? Does that fall on the head coach?
I do believe that does as well.
Is there any of those things that you think Nick Sirianni does well? I'm just wondering. Do you think he does any of those things well? I don't think
Nick Sirianni does anything well, but make sure he has his pants on the right way so he can pee out of them.
I feel like he doesn't do any of that well. I thought maybe before this year, or at least before like week 11, that he would be a culture guy, right? I mean, it kind of reverted to the opposite of that. I mean, that would probably be the thing, because remember the whole thing was Jeffrey Lurie likes this term emotional intelligence ever since Chip Kelly. And, I definitely never considered him an X's and O's maven. You know what I mean? Like, not after 21, after the first 6 or 7 weeks of the season. They seemed very confused in that part of the season as far as who they were, how they were going to execute, etc. I don't know if he does any one thing very particularly well.
Okay, so the point I'm trying to make and the thing I want to get at tonight and where I really want to kind of break this down. And if you guys seen the impromptu live I did on Tuesday, thank you very much. It's got 400 ready. What'd you say?
I saw part of it.
He's got 400 views already, and I appreciate everybody that tuned into that. I'm going to repeat some of that stuff, so I apologize. I don't think that Nick Sirianni or Brian Johnson understand what a blitz beater is. I don't think they know what that is. And for me to sit here and watch a football game where you're running a dig route or a stop route or a flag route against the blitz, that's like high school. Like, anybody play high school football? Like, high school. Do you remember what they told you when the defense is going to pressure the line of scrimmage? They said you have to run plays that run away from the defenders. Very simple stuff. Slants, drags, crossers. You have guys that, and by the way, it's really funny that we talk about this because we talk about the receivers and their ineptitude in the receiving game. Quez Watkins is, or Olamide Zaccheaus, or Britton Covey, or anybody outside Devontae Smith. And they missed A.J. Brown a ton. Well, I know what routes they should be running, and they're perfect for Quez Watkins, Olamide Zaccheaus, Devontae Smith. They're crossers and slants. And by the way, when a team plays cover zero, you don't have to worry about getting laid out across the middle because you only have one guy sticking you. And the part that drove me the craziest on the offensive side of the ball was, I don't remember if you guys remember this play, but the Eagles ran out in a 5-wide set. It was a 3rd and 5. They had 5 wide out. Tampa Bay took 6 guys and put them on the line of scrimmage. They played man up, cover zero across the board. They showed cover zero. They put 6 guys on the line of scrimmage. I'm not a mathematician, but 6 seems to be more than 5. So when you line up with 6 guys on the line of scrimmage, the quarterback or the offensive coordinator needs to go, hey, come on in. It's called changing your protection. You bring Dallas Goedert in, or you bring DeAndre Swift in to block, and it gives you a 6th blocker. If you can't do that and don't understand what that looks like, you cannot coach or play in the National Football League. It is so basic that guys like Ray Lewis, Dan Orlovsky, ex-players all over the NFL, Rex Ryan, ex-coaches, Jay Gruden, were literally saying, Jay Gruden put a tweet out there that said, if I've ever did this to any quarterback, I sincerely apologize.
And Robert Griffin had the perfect response for him.
Yeah, I saw that. And it's probably why he's still not a coach.
I'll say this. There's another option they could have went with. It's a crazy thing called like a 2-step out route, where your outside receiver on one side or the other, probably on your right, you just take like 2-3 steps up and then just go out. He's going to be open to catch that ball on the outside if it's thrown correctly to him every time when you're blitzing like that. But again, these are things you have to audible into. These are plays that you have to change. There's this thing going on where people are saying, oh, you know, Jalen Hurts was changing a bunch of the plays. He couldn't have been changing a bunch of the plays. That's impossible because they all were the same. Unless he's changing 75% of that trash that we were running, he wasn't changing plays.
And at what point do you stop the quarterback from changing the plays? Yo, dude, it's not working. Can you run the plays I'm calling? Let's just say he was doing that. Like, there's got to be some type of, it's not working. Can we switch to this? And Jalen Hurts isn't absolved from everything, right? Like, that 4th and 5 play was embarrassing.
Safety play was bad too.
I think the safety play was actually worse.
Yeah, it was
4th and 5 play was bad, man. So what they ran on 4th and 5 was they ran a jump ball to a 175-pound wide receiver in the end zone over an all-pro safety. Dallas Goedert ran a 7-yard in route. He ran 7 yards, right across the middle. He was open. He had 1.5 yards of separation, which is considered open in the NFL. And Jalen Hurts threw a jump ball to a 175-pound wide receiver.
Jalen Hurts never saw him because Jalen Hurts only saw Devontae Smith from before the snap. Everybody knew it.
I want to give you guys a stat.
Yep.
I'm going to give you 5 teams in the NFL, and I want you to tell me if these are good offensive teams or bad offensive teams. San Francisco, Baltimore, Detroit, Tampa Bay, Houston. Do you think this will be a good offensive stat or a bad offensive stat?
I'm going to say bad.
I think you're kidding, but that's okay.
I'm kidding.
Those 5 teams throw the ball over the middle of the field between 24 and 26% of the time. The Giants, the Patriots, the Eagles, the Cardinals, and the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh, this is definitely bad.
They throw the ball over the middle of the field 15% or less. The worst in the NFL, 32 out of 32 teams at throwing the ball over the middle of the field, is the Philadelphia Eagles at 11%.
Yeah, I think that's play design, definitely. I think that they placate to Jalen too much and don't challenge him. I think he's not a finished product, and I think the coaches falsely decided that after Steichen left, which I think is a mistake. I think he's still developing, and that's not a knock on him. I still think he's sharpening his game. He's on the upward trend. Quarterbacks have taken a step back and then going back up. It's not a normal to happen. But, I think they need to challenge him to throw over the middle, design more plays over the middle, right? And I didn't see any of that. Like, you got this big tight end that could go over the middle. A.J. Brown is great at going over the middle. He made a living off of it in Tennessee. They would throw short balls over the middle that he would take to the house. I mean, bad play design, and I feel like these coaches placate too much too. They're like, oh, let's do stuff that they're comfortable with. Well, no, challenge them. Like, I don't get the feeling Brian Johnson challenged Jalen like Shane Steichen challenged him.
The only argument I have with your statement is when you're saying that they placated. I don't think they placated. I think they decided this is what Jalen was going to do, whether he wanted to or not. There's been reports that halfway through the season, he went to them and said he wanted to make some changes to the office, and they told him, piss on you, run our office, and shut up.
Yeah. I don't know what to believe when it's this time in Philadelphia. When I say this time, not this time of year, but when it's this type of atmosphere, right? Because then I hear stuff about Desai, like they told him he couldn't bring in his own guys, right? Like his own defensive coordinators, if you wanted to make some changes to it, right? Is that true? Is it not true? And that'd be indicative of up top making a decision and not Sirianni. But then we hear Sirianni made the decision for Patricia. And then, I heard that thing too you're talking about with Hurts. And I don't know, man. It's just the thing that I try to look at to try to kind of like uncloud the noise is the stats against the blitz. And I don't think they were helping him to put him in the right position and helping him improve. And I think, just remember what he said at the beginning of the season. Like, I forget which reporter was like, hey, what do you think you need to do coming in the season? And Nick, and he's like, not much, it's pretty much his answer. He was like, not a whole lot. You keep doing what we're doing. It was pretty vanilla. Maybe he's holding it close to the vest. I think, as the season played out, I think that's really what he believed. Right. I mean, that's what it looks like, right? The league will adjust to you. They're not going to just sit back, and you have to adjust your play calling, and you have to help your players adjust to that because the league will adjust. They will, if you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, they're going to come up with a solution to stop you. That's how the NFL works. And it seems like they felt like they didn't have to really be very creative. They could just do whatever.
It was the least creative offense I've ever seen. And that wasn't even the most uninspiring thing I watched Monday night. Want to know the most uninspiring thing I watched Monday night? The Philadelphia Eagles trying to tackle a human being. I don't know what level of Pop Warner, high school, college football that you played at that allowed you not to tackle or not to be able to play defense as a team. But that defense was playing 11 individuals and no team defense whatsoever. James Bradberry needs to be cut immediately. I don't care what the cap penalty is. Get him out of here. Get rid of him for a 7th. If somebody wants him, I don't think anybody's going to want him. He was terrible.
I doubt it.
They also ran into each other. 2 times it was talked about during the broadcast. But when you go back and watch that game, they ran into each other 6 different times. Avonte Maddox ran into Eli Ricks. Nicholas Morrow ran into Kevin Byard. Nicholas Morrow ran into James Bradberry. It's unfathomable how many times this defense ran into each other.
Yeah, it's
we
crazy.
weren't playing friggin' world beaters. The Buccaneers just put up 9 points versus the Carolina Panthers, who were the worst team in football. They should have put up 50 versus us. They had 32 with 7 drop passes, 6 in the first half.
One of which was a bomb to Mike Evans that would have been a touchdown if he caught it. You know, Bradberry, the thing that sucks about Bradberry is we all were happy with them re-signing him coming into the season. And I don't think anybody saw that decline coming. I mean, that's a steep decline. I mean, I just think he doesn't have any physical ability left. I mean, you know, you could say a guy's out of position and they're using him wrong and he's not that type of corner. But when it comes to tackling, like that's just, I'm sorry, that's piss poor. He just got, it's almost like he had no heart, right, left. Like, I don't get it. I mean, Ray Lewis he said, you know, you just got to slow a guy down. Like, it's not even like you have to it's not like you have to give him a big hit and blow the guy up. You got to slow him down and get in his way. You know what I mean? And they're not even in the right position to do that. Bradberry he made Moore look like a world beater.
Bradberry, Cunningham, Morrow, Kevin Byard, every one of those guys looked like absolute donkey. And the 2 guys that played the most inspired football on that defense were the 2 oldest guys on the team, Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham. They were the only 2 that looked like they were playing with energy, with fire. It was embarrassing. When you look at that performance, I can't say that it's personnel. I won't allow you to say it's personnel. Yes, could they improve at certain positions? Can it be better in certain places? Yes. I'm telling you, Raheem Morris would trade his Rams defense for this Eagles defense, player for player.
I don't think scheme's going to save James Bradberry.
Okay, so you gave me one example. Would you like to give me a second?
Zach Cunningham, I don't know if scheme will save him either, or Nicholas Morrow.
Teams can hide linebackers all the time, brother.
They can, but you need your D-line needs to be clicking on all cylinders, and it wasn't this year. Not all the way through. Not like we're used to in Philadelphia. If it
that
is
same D-line missing Hargrave and adding Jalen Carter, that same D-line led the NFL in sacks last year. What changed? They're all terrible now. They just all stink now.
Hargrave, I think you want. I don't know.
It's just Hargrave. You're right. They led the league in sacks.
Not just Hargrave.
They stopped playing Barnett at all too. Let's not forget that.
No, but exactly. Just gonna say that
They
Barnett.
basically took Barnett and just said, "You're not even going to be here no more." And he went to another team fresh because he didn't play here and contribute. The biggest difference in the defensive line this year was they didn't use any depth. They had the same guys out there the whole game. They ran them down. I don't care who you are. I don't care how great of a player you are. That's not going to work over a long time. It's just not going to work.
They do a rotation. That's what they've always done. And that's not a rotation. What Cole was just described, they were not rotating. So, I mean, you know, Cox and Graham played admirably, but they were on the field too much, especially Fletcher Cox. I mean, you know, I think you're right. You can make up for that. I mean, Nakobe Dean not being there hurt too, right? That was your green dot coming into the season. You know, Morrow was awful. You know,
this is a dumb comment. Damian, this is a stupid comment. I don't think he should get brought back because he aged, not because of the play in the Super Bowl. That was a bullshit call. Everybody knows that. And I think trading TJ Edwards may have screwed us. I guess.
We didn't trade him.
First of all, that's
left.
incorrect. That's incorrect. We didn't trade him. He was a free agent. He went and signed with his hometown team. So if you say trading,
now,
that's incorrect. You have incorrect sources. So make sure the sources that you're
using.
Yeah.
Now he said he wanted to play with his hometown team, but if Howie offered him a couple more million, I'm pretty sure he would have came back here or another million. Howie didn't make an effort to keep him, I think, because they don't value that position. And I do believe TJ Edwards. He did say he's from Chicago. He wanted to play there. But I gotta believe, looking where the Eagles were at last year and where the Bears were going, if Howie offered him more money, he probably would have came back to the Eagles. I mean, I don't think I'm going out on a limb right there saying that. That thing is Howie didn't do that though.
Or did TJ Edwards, by being in the organization last year, already know if my coordinators are gone and we're going to depend on silly Sirianni to make plays, I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here and go get the money.
Could be.
If we really were worried about keeping somebody last year, Kaiser White should still be a Philadelphia Eagle.
Where did he end up? I can't remember where he ended up.
Arizona.
With Jonathan Gannon.
Yeah, it only took like $5 million or whatever to get him. So it wasn't a guy that you had to pay a lot of money to. We should have kept him. That's one of the moves that I lamented the whole time and said we should have made. For Bradbury, I think he has.
But see, Godfrey has done the same thing that he does whenever we get in this conversation. He has tricked you all. He has tricked you all again into believing that it was a personnel issue when it's not
just a personnel issue. It's partially a personnel issue.
No, it's not.
It's everything. It's everything to me. It's personnel.
I would go with everything.
But it's also scheme. So to me, it's everything.
Of course, schemes a part of it. Absolutely. But I can't sit here and tell me that if we roll this team back exactly how it is with a different scheme, that we're going to get, it's going to be move the needle 100% more.
You took this 52-man roster and you had a good defensive coordinator. I don't care if it's Wink Martindale. I don't care if it's Brian Flores. I don't care if it's Raheem Morris. I don't care if it's I don't care who it is. You give them a good defensive coordinator and a Ben Johnson or a good offensive coordinator like a Steichen, this would be completely different.
I think Raheem Morris had a good year, but they also went on fire with the run with Kyra Williams, keeping that defense off the field. That's what helped that defense a lot.
Because scheme helps, brother.
Yeah, well, if you keep your defense on the field, the week, that's going to help them too.
Does the offensive scheme not matter now?
No, it does.
I think if you bring a guy like Wright, who has experience, who they listen to in the front office, they have a rapport with him. So he's a guy that can go to them and say, "Hey guys, maybe let's do this. Let's try to make some things different. Let's maneuver things a little different on the offensive side, and let's also go get a guy on defense and let him run a defense." I would like Wink Martindale because he has no desire to be a head coach. He'll stay there. He'll train the young guys. He'll do something that we never do, and he will develop the young defensive players. The reason we never develop young defense players, we have a good year, everybody runs off and gets head coaching gigs, and then we suck because
you might get that
replace the guys.
Because Sirianni and Howie are calling people to be the coordinators. So that's
okay. Well,
you might get that wish.
NFL.com did a report after the draft on May 22nd, and they ranked the 10 most talented teams headed into the 2023-2024 offseason. 2023-24 season. They came up just short in Super Bowl 52, but there's no reason to think the state of this Eagles roster isn't as good, if not better than it was a year ago. MVP runner-up Jalen Hurts is back to direct a high-powered offense that includes A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Jason Kelce. Isaac Seumalo's departure will be missed, but they will be replacing him with second-round draft pick Cam Jurgens. Miles Sanders will be missed, but they'll replace him with DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny. Defensively, the unquestioned strength is up front, adding Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith. Did a best pass rush of 2022. Even after losing Javon Hargrave, they can throw waves of rushers at opponents. Although the run defense could stand to improve, if there's a roster weakness, it might be the back half of the defense. Philly's in excellent shape at cornerback, but has a few question marks at linebacker with Nakobe Dean and Nicholas Morrow as possible starters, and Reed Blankenship and Terrell Edmonds as the leading candidates of safety. But they have the number one roster headed into the 2023 season. And we are sitting here talking about personnel.
You're
It is
bringing up stuff
not
they said at the
So
beginning
you're
of the
going
season.
to bring up a preseason
You can bring up
report.
all that stuff. Yeah,
Man, sit
preseason
down
report.
with that, Gene. You got to
Yeah,
do better than that.
come on.
You want to make an argument, you could be better than that. That's
I
not a
have
good
Preseason
argument.
better than
report?
what?
That's a preseason report before
That's
everybody
the
ever
point.
took the field.
Going into the season, they had the best roster in the NFL, and we're talking about personnel.
never had
This
the
is a
best roster in the
goddamn
NFL.
coaching issue.
They never had the best. They never had the best roster in the NFL.
Listen,
I agree with you.
my biggest thing going in was, hey, who's our third receiver? And that's important. When AJ got hurt, then they could key on Devontae Smith. He's still 8, and that guy is not good. They had no depth at receiver. Howie's atrocious at getting receivers in here that do well. He didn't draft AJ.
That's not true.
My
Oz
grandma
was a
could have
good
drafted
receiver.
Devontae
Oz was
Smith.
a
My
good
grandma could have.
receiver, but they don't use him. It's not
Who?
that they don't have a guy. Oz was a
Zacchaeus
good
you're talking about?
receiver.
Come on,
He's a good
Zacchaeus.
receiver.
What
They don't use him.
what would you classify not using good players to?
What do you mean? So you're saying they didn't use Oz enough?
They didn't
coaching.
use
That's coaching.
Olamide Zacchaeus. Okay, that's coaching. So I'm going to play a game with you guys.
They're too loyal. Nick Sirianni's too loyal to his players. I've always said that. He's too loyal to Quez Watkins.
Which is what?
What do you mean?
Coach.
It's a personnel decision. It's the same.
Not personnel decision. It's coaching. If you have the personnel on the fucking roster,
If you decide to
not
stick
the
with a guy,
coaching, it's not.
they're making that decision. Howie drafted him. They were in love with him. They're like, oh, he's great. He's a 5th rounder. He's going to develop. They're blowing up his head in camp, talking about, oh, I'm a top tier receiver. What? Come on, man.
Guys, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to give you 2 choices, and I'm going to ask you to put percentages of it. And I'm going to go coaching, which means the offensive, defensive, and head coach, or personnel. And you're going to give me a percentage of what went wrong in the Philadelphia Eagles season. You can make it 99-1. You can make it 50-50. I don't care. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. Godfrey, I'll start with you because I know you're going to have the most ridiculous breakdown of this. So go ahead.
So we're going to go coaching and then
Coaching or personnel? Give me a percentage of blame.
So we're just using
or
2.
Players?
We're just using 2. All right. So I'm going to go coaching 70, personnel 30.
Okay. Cool.
I'm gonna go coaching 60, players 40.
What's your breakdown?
Coaching 95, personnel 5.
I don't know.
I don't care if you know. I know.
How? Based off who?
What do you mean how?
We just listed a bunch of nobodies on defense, and you're telling me that even if you're a good coach, that you're gonna have trouble getting production out of those guys.
Bro, I can list you a bunch of nobodies on 5 to 6 different playoff teams that you have no idea who they are.
Yeah, but they're not giving up. They're tackling, and they're not playing the way the Eagles played.
What do you
since
call
the Niners game?
Not tackling?
So give me your team that you think that it would be. That's a playoff team that they just schemed in, that they just have that lack of talent, like a Nicholas Morrow playing linebacker.
You know, just for fun, I'll give you the Buffalo Bills. I'll give you a team that's really
That's
good.
decimated by injury.
Well,
That lost their
listen,
top 5 guys.
and their defense played great. Do you want me to give you another team? I'll give you another team.
But that's why you know why that's a misnomer.
You
know why that's a
You know what,
misnomer.
Buffalo? I'll give you another one. Give me the Detroit Lions then. I'll give you.
Their
top
secondary
teams.
is bad, and it's
But
they're
that's
exposed.
the friggin' point. They're still playing good defense.
But
have
they're
a
better
bad
than the
secondary.
Eagles.
They have a bit, but no team is complete. Godfrey, none of them
Yeah.
are complete.
But
None of
it's
them
not
are
just
complete.
coaching. You could say that about the Rams, but the Rams ran the ball more. In Buffalo, they fired the offensive
Which is
coordinator. They ran
what?
the ball more, keep the defense off the field. That's what
Which
they.
is what?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's all coaching.
More to keep the defense off the field. What is that?
That's coaching, but that the personnel also matters. It does. I don't know how you can sit here and say it doesn't.
I
Like,
didn't say personnel doesn't matter.
I don't believe
I
that you
said on
bring
this
your
team-
ideal coaching here and it fixes almost all the problems. I mean, we
It does.
say that as fans all the time. It never does. I don't believe bringing Frank Reich in here will fix it.
Offensively?
No, I don't.
So here's the thing.
How can you co-sign Frank Reich? Listen,
if
he
you don't believe in Godfrey,
couldn't work well with
cool.
Carson.
What do you mean he could work with
I'll try
Carson?
it though.
He was the OC when Carson had his best season. So what do you mean he can't work with Carson? That doesn't.
He went
that
to
doesn't even add
Indianapolis,
up.
didn't work out. When Indy didn't work out.
He was the head coach in Indy. We're not saying bring him in as a head coach. If you listen, we're saying bring him in as the OC. He was really good as an OC.
I'm not against it. I just don't think it will work. I'll try anything at this point. If they want to bring Frank Reich in, I'm with it.
But tell me why it wouldn't work. That's what because
I see a guy that didn't want to work with a QB that was young because he didn't want him. That's a red flag to me. He didn't want him, so he didn't want to work with him. He didn't want to work with Bryce Young. Did he not want to work with Bryce Young?
What?
He didn't want to work with Bryce Young.
He went out there and tried the best with Bryce Young. Bryce Young had no offensive line. But
he said he did not want him. He wanted C.J. Stroud. Am I incorrect?
Yeah, he said he didn't want him. He didn't come out publicly and say he didn't want him straight up.
I mean you don't think he alluded to Bryce heard that through the back channel and felt that?
But still, he's still the coach. You're still a professional. This is not college. This is not Pop Warner. This is not high school. Just
if you ask me if I'll take him over Brian Johnson, the answer is yes. The answer is yes.
I mean, I would take you over Brian Johnson. That's not the question. The question
I like bubble screens. I like bubble screens. You might not want that.
Well, I'll take Gene then because I don't want you either.
I'm just joking.
But what I'm saying is you have to get a guy that can work with the type of quarterback that you have. And when you're dealing with an organization like Philadelphia, you need a guy that has the rapport with the front office to be.
Do you think Sirianni's going to call Reich?
No, I don't think Sirianni's going to call Reich.
He knows him. I mean, Howie knows him.
Howie probably call him.
Outside of San Francisco and Baltimore, the Philadelphia Eagles have the best personnel on the defensive side of the ball in the NFL.
I call that. I don't agree with that.
No, not even close. How?
No.
You're talking about from front to back? From front to back?
I'll tell you how because you're gonna point to how bad they played this year under this scheme, and I'm gonna tell you how. Darius Slay was an all-pro cornerback last year. Kevin Byard was an all-pro safety 2 years ago. Fletcher Cox has been an all-pro defensive tackle throughout his career. Jalen Carter is going to be defensive rookie of the year. No, I'm going to answer your question. You asked me how. Let me answer your question.
Jalen hit a wall, did he not?
Hassan Reddick was a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year last year. They all hit a wall, right? Had nothing to do with scheme. It's all the talent on the team.
Hassan Reddick, but we're carrying over last year.
So other than what you said about Jalen Carter, who was good this year?
But see, this year is different because they're in the scheme that is not working. They're in a base vanilla scheme. They don't believe in it. The players are not bought into the system.
They don't have no backups. So they're out there playing the whole game and getting burnt out by the end of the year.
Bro,
no depth.
I can't say that they don't have backups because they didn't play the fucking backups.
Okay, but if they don't play them, they don't have them.
But that's a coach. That's not true. You don't draft a guy 30th overall and play him 13% of snaps.
But they did.
That's a coaching problem.
That is a coaching problem.
That's my point.
Execution, when you're on the field, execution on the field is the players. The coach ain't out there tackling. Execution is on the players. You're supposed to tackle. They're not tackling. Oh, is that a coaching problem?
If I run a go route, cool, and you're running cover zero, if I run a go route, I don't care what type of coaching you can give me. It's not going to help me execute on the field if I'm running stop routes when they're sending a fucking cover zero blitz. It doesn't make sense.
Runs past me, runs over me, jukes me, and I don't even try to make a tackle. That's not coaching. That's not coaching.
First of all, that's why I said 5%, because James Bradbury couldn't tackle anyone. That's literally what the 5% is.
I'm not saying that it's all coaching. What I'm saying is the players deserve more criticism than I think a lot of people are giving because they're the ones who quit. What I saw the last 3 weeks against Arizona, the New York Giants, and that playoff game, that was quitting. That was players quitting.
I agree with that.
So if you're cowards that quit on your team, piss on you.
Listen, I agree that the players quit.
I never saw. Argue. You know what?
The argument that we're going to make is why did they quit? And I'm
when
telling
Ray
you,
Lewis had a problem with the scheme in Baltimore and said, "Get me a defensive tackle or trade me." Before they brought on Haloti Ngata, he didn't quit because they didn't have no D tackle in front of him. Because he was pissed about that. You can look that up. He said it. He didn't quit. He kept playing.
You don't just quit on the coaches. You quit on the people on that field with you. You quit on us. You don't just quit on the coaches. You don't just say, I'm only quitting because of the coaches. You're quitting on the organization, you're quitting on the fans, and you're quitting on each other.
People made business decisions.
And if you don't see that, that's fine. but you're not being
People
real.
made business decisions
Make
this year.
the business decision. That doesn't mean you didn't quit.
They
I
did
don't care
quit.
what business-
I agree with
Okay,
you. They quit.
You quit on us all.
They
There's
don't
quit.
care your
dudes
reason.
playing on
You
4
quit.
and 12 teams that aren't quitting, that are trying to put tape out there so they could get their next fucking job. They're
That's
playing on
why
teams that have nothing to
Not
play
quote
for.
unquote
12
business
teams.
decisions. Play. You're out there to play. If you don't want to play, say you're hurt and don't get out there.
By the way, Jonathan Gannon went 3-1 against the NFC East. I thought that was interesting. Almost beat the Giants too. Almost swept the NFC East. I mean, listen, I please, at the minimum, change
He
the
went 2-2.
coordinators. What do you say?
I'm pretty sure he went 2-2. I'm pretty sure he lost in New York and Washington.
No, I think, didn't they beat Washington?
No, they played
Maybe.
Washington 1. They lost by 3.
Oh, they took it to the
did lose
wire.
Washington. I'm not saying that blame doesn't belong on the coaches. I'm not saying that at all. More blame belongs on the coaches. But you have guys all season that were missing assignments and not doing what they were supposed to do all the way back. What happened was we were winning, so no changes were made. That's on coaching, but that's also on leadership in the locker room. We didn't have a team full of guys that were rookies. We had a lot of guys on this team that were veterans that should have went out there and done more. There should have been a quieting voice to say, look, these just ain't gonna do it. We need to go out there and figure this thing out for ourselves. And I believe that's the difference between this year and last year, because I have no respect for Jonathan Gannon as our defensive coordinator, and he ran a similar, not the same, but a similar bend but don't break trash defense. The difference was last year the offense was explosive because we had a better coordinator, and the guys on the team say, you know what? We're going to go out there and make plays. We're going to go out there and get sacks. We're going to go out there and get turnovers. We're going to do the things to help us on this side because this idiot can't do it for us. This year, they didn't have that same tenacity.
Yeah, I think taking the Sai out was, I think that was a panic move and a mistake. But the part of the reason was because they couldn't get up the field for third down. So that they made a change. It didn't work out. I don't know if it really
I
made
might
a
leave
difference.
that comment up to the rest of the show. Derek Dempsey said, this is nuts. 52 players just play bad and it's not on the coach. Yeah.
Who says it's not on the coaches? No one said that. So shut up, Derek, because you're wrong. We didn't say that. No one on this panel has said it's not on the coaches. We're saying it's also on the players. So that's a different thing. Don't try to.
It could be both. It could be. I think it could be both.
Keep talking, Derek.
It could be both. It could be both, can it? Like I said, it's I said 70% coaching, 30% personnel. It's mostly coaching.
When your coaches don't change anything, when your team is having the biggest collapse in NFL history, I'd quit too.
That's why you're not a professional football player.
The coaches.
That's why you're not. That's why you're not a professional athlete, Derek.
He was worse, but they did make a change. Sometimes change isn't good.
Are you kidding me?
As well.
Bruce, you're kidding me? Could you say if Nick should be our coach next season? Have you listened to me for the last 25 minutes? Like, that is the easiest question.
Bruce must have came in. And Derek, I don't really mean shut up. I mean figuratively, not shut up, not literally, because we want you to keep talking. Just
keep talking, Derek. You're spitting facts.
I mean,
you're spitting facts that nobody's disputing, though.
Do I think that it's a coward's move for a player to quit on a team and quit on their coaching staff? Yes, I do. I think it's a coward's move. But the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And when Brian Johnson's running stupid bubble screens to Dallas Goedert with Devontae Smith as his lead friggin' blocker, I don't know, man. If I'm Devontae Smith and I'm about to get paid, and by the way, that wasn't one of the guys that quit. I use that as an example. But if I'm Devontae Smith, I'm like, I'm about to get paid, man. I'm not gonna be a lead blocker for Dallas Goedert here.
Yeah, I might have to fall and and get a Charlie horse on that play when I'm supposed to block in this situation. But but what I'm saying, I think me and Godfrey have the same thought, but maybe we're getting there differently. What I'm saying is you have to acknowledge that when you have this type of just poor play, you have to put some of that on the coaching staff. But there's also gentlemen in this locker room who should have pride. I'm not talking about the playoff game. I'm talking about when this even started back against San Francisco. You should have guys in your locker room have pride. So you know what, guys? We caught an L. We took one to the chin, whatever. We're going out here next week, and we're going to do our thing. If they're going to sit everybody because we're doing our thing, then let them sit everybody. But what we saw was they came back out. They did the same thing over and over again, and you knew it wasn't going to work. You got somebody you have somebody on the field. Let me finish. You have somebody on the field.
You're doing exactly.
You have someone on the
You're
field that's a
saying
play caller.
exactly what I'm saying, though. You're doing the same thing over and over again. It's not working. And then you're telling me it's personnel. It's not personnel. You could have had, I'm telling you right now, you could have had the 85 Bears playing defense, and you could have had the Joe Montana led 49ers playing offense, and they wouldn't have won with this scheme.
Who would have?
Yes, really.
I don't believe that.
Who hired Brian Johnson?
You don't believe that.
Nick Sirianni.
That's not. So now, what I love about this is we talk out of the side of our mouths. He's a puppet that can't make any decisions, and then he hires his own coaches. You can't be both ways. Just because it fits the narrative. He didn't hire Brian Johnson. He was brought in because Jalen knew him. Come on,
yep,
he didn't know him from Adam from Eve. They didn't know each other. Sirianni
Who promoted Brian Johnson?
Okay, because he was probably told to.
Yeah, he did what he was told to do.
He can't be a puppet and then not a puppet when it doesn't fit.
He's an idiot. Now, the thing that's his fault, this idiot on his part with this is you pulled back out a playbook that didn't work 2 years ago and said, hey, Brian, coach from this playbook. You can only coach from this stupid playbook. That's where I fought Nick Sirianni. That's why he's an idiot. That's why he's Nicky Tight Pants Sirianni, because of that. That playbook that he had him use sucked 2 years ago, and then you pulled it back out because you didn't want to do what Shane Steichen did, because you wanted to show that silly Sirianni's crap could work, and it can't.
Yeah, where the I don't understand, like, where to play, where the RPO seemed to evaporate. I don't think Jalen was injured. I keep thinking he was because he didn't run as much, but I looked up the stats. He had rushing yards. It just seemed like he seemed slower, and I don't know why. And I keep thinking he's injured. I'm waiting for him, like he got his knee scoped or something, like, because it seemed like he was hurt or playing on something. I mean, did he not seem a step slower? Like,
yeah, seem slower.
So I don't know, man. They didn't do him any favors.
Oh, Jalen Hurts seemed a step slower. It's all on him.
No one said that. Just because we don't agree with your 95 to 5% point doesn't mean that we're going, oh, it's all Jalen Hurts. I mean, listen, he didn't do good against the blitz this year. I don't think they developed him. I think they gave him too much reins on the offense, maybe because they didn't know how to call the offense, and they should have kind of eased him into that. Like, I believe if Shane Steichen was here.
I think the opposite. I think they didn't give him really much any reign on the offense. I think they gave him a system and said, this is what we're going to play.
You don't think they gave him any freedom?
I think he took some plays and said, I'm going to call some audibles on some plays. Yes. But this offense looked the same as it did in 2021. It sucks then. It sucks now.
Guys,
so unless you're telling me
they couldn't pick up a blitz
in 2021, then he didn't have.
They couldn't even sniff a blitz.
Guys, Wink Martindale literally blitzed the Eagles every play. You had a full week. All you heard all week was Todd Bowles blitzes more than anybody in the NFL. Tampa Bay Buccaneers blitz on every friggin' play.
Wouldn't you blitz a team that can't handle the blitz? I mean, that's common sense.
You're absolutely correct. So my question would be, what did they talk about all week? What was the offensive game plan?
So this is where I need them.
Like,
what part of it? I don't know what percentage it is. What part of it is they were like, look out for the blitz, do this, or what part of it was blitz recognition by blockers and players and Jalen, or what was it? The coach not putting in packages to go after or adjust to the blitz coming and that they knew was coming.
95% on coaching, 5% on personnel. That's the blame. The problem is Howie hiring yes men as coaches so he doesn't lose power like he did when Chip was here. That's why Doug left. Notice that there's quite a few established coaches available now.
How can you say that when it netted a Super Bowl? It netted a Super Bowl. Listen, when the Eagles hired a sexy coach, so to speak, he fucking sucked. And then they won a Super Bowl. And I don't want to hear people singing Doug's praises because 95% of people were fucking pissed that they hired Doug Peterson when he got hired. I don't even want to hear that shit. And there's like, oh, Doug. Come on, man. Everybody was even on board with Doug. They're almost never on board with any Jeffrey Lurie hire. When they hired Andy Reid, they wanted every other fucking jabroni out there. They wanted Billick, who couldn't even coach an offense, and he needed Ray Lewis to win him a Super Bowl. People need to stop. Oh, Doug. Come on, man. 95% weren't on board with Doug.
Just because people weren't on board with someone doesn't mean they can't be a fan of them.
Yeah, okay, but they're acting like he wasn't picked by the organization because of who he was. And he was that type of mold where he would be a yes man. Chip Kelly had all the power, and he was the opposite reaction.
So what
So
happened was-
let's not act like Doug was a trailblazer coming
in
in.
my opinion, what happened was Doug
Oh.
came in, he won. Then after he won, what happened is he went in, he wanted to make certain changes on the staff. The organization was like, no, you're not doing it. You want to promote a guy that sucked as an OC sucked as a quarterback coach to OC. No one's going
Talking
to
about Press Taylor. Talking about Press Taylor, right?
No, I'm talking about who?
Mike Rowe.
Mike Rowe, yes. That's the problem. That's why Doug is out, because Doug wanted.
But Doug wanted to keep Press, and Press
Go ahead,
didn't.
Jim.
Press didn't
No,
want to stay.
I meant you're right. I'm pointing at you
Oh.
because you're right.
my bad. I thought
Everything
you were-
that you said was correct. Every word.
That's the problem with
Because-
Doug.
When Doug came in, he was a yes man to Howie, and they hired Schwartz and Frank Wright, and they won the Super Bowl. And then Doug goes, "Whew, I won a Super Bowl.
And
I'm gonna
Frank Wright left.
I'm going to get my own guys." And
Mhm.
the organization didn't agree with the guys. And then
Press
Doug,
Taylor was his guy. Was he not?
that's what I just said.
All right, but that cost him his job, right? Didn't it? Because he wanted to keep Press Taylor.
What cost him his job was when Howie Roseman told him to make the change at quarterback. He didn't want to do it. That's what cost him his job. That got leaked way, way later. We didn't know about it then. We thought Doug was a Carson guy or a Jalen guy, and Howie was the Carson guy, and we were exactly wrong about that until everything came out about the concussion that happened in Seattle.
I feel like a lot of people knew that because Jalen was talking about how Marty Mornhinweg would be getting ready and they'd be coaching him up on the side. Jalen was Marty Mornhinweg's responsibility.
He's right.
Yeah, you're right. That's what we're saying. Yeah.
Doug left because he wasn't allowed to hire his own coaches after winning the Super Bowl.
And
That
he
he
wanted
wanted
to-
game planning power. That's right. I need the Doug Peterson tell all.
I would
I
like
need
that.
it. I want
I
the
would
Doug
like that.
Peterson tell all. I'm telling you
like-
right now,
pretty
they
sure
could
it will
create a
happen.
30 They could create a 30 for 30 with Carson Wentz, Doug Peterson, Howie Roseman, and I would be locked
Be
in.
entertaining.
Oh, and you might as well add Frank Wright and what's it called in there too, the DC. That would be a great
Josh
Schwartz-
McDaniels takes that job. He
yeah.
never leaves.
right. And Josh McDaniels is the reason why he left, because he took the job and then he reneged it. Had Josh McDaniel been a man of his word, which he's clearly not, then we wouldn't have been in the
Well,
situation.
Jim
that we
Irsay
were in.
didn't
What's
have
the
to take
worst
a shit in his house.
Who's a worse person, Josh McDaniel or Lane Kiffin?
For me, it's Josh McDaniel.
I don't know. They're both very reneggy type guys, and
They're
I'm
very
going to go
close,
Josh McDaniel.
but I'm gonna go Josh McDaniel. But they're very close. That's a fair question.
At
to
least
ask.
Lane didn't get caught cheating.
shocked.
Yeah.
What about Lane, the one that gave a full press conference on Rocky Top talking about how Tennessee is going to do this, and that, and then a week later took the job at USC? That Lane Kiffin, I'll never forget that.
That was hilarious. That was one of the moments.
He gave
Of
a
college
whole
football
press
history.
conference talking about Rocky Top this and UT that, and a week later he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to USC."
A week later, he was out.
I'll never forget that.
Damian says Eagles the last dance. The last soar. How about that?
Oh man,
I'm afraid though that it's trending, and I hope this doesn't happen. That it's trending toward maybe Brian Johnson coming back, and they're just looking for a DC.
No,
I
sir.
hope.
No. They haven't let go of Brian Johnson because they're hoping he gets a head coaching job so they can get compensatory picks for a person of color leaving their staff to go get a head coaching job. If he
He's not
doesn't
gonna
get a
get a head
job,
coaching
they're
job.
going to fire his ass the next
No.
day.
I think that Brian Johnson takes the offensive coordinator job at Ohio State.
Brian Johnson was never getting hired as a head coach. I mean,
Not kidding.
they
But I'm just saying, Godfrey, you never know.
they're
Because
using
here's
him
the
to
thing.
make a mockery of the Rooney Rule,
Carolina
and they know it.
Panthers, the Carolina Panthers may not have like 3 candidates of people that actually want to coach there.
Well,
right?
that's
So he may be the best. He may be the best option that wants to actually coach there.
That might be true. I mean, Ben Johnson was getting back channel messages after they fired Frank Reich about "Don't come here." So
I
I mean,
It was before. It was before Ben Johnson got those messages before they hired Frank. They originally wanted Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson's like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
stay right out of here. See how things work
They've
out.
come out. People have came out and said, "Don't take the Carolina job."
Yeah.
Because what do they want in Carolina? They want the same type of coach that we have currently in Philadelphia. They want a lapdog. They want a yes man, a spineless coach. Brian Johnson can fill that role.
I hope so. That'd be great. Not gonna
Well,
happen.
you know, Lurie's on a boat right now, apparently in the Bahamas or somewhere, or the Caribbean.
So this is why they're scrambling to put a plan together, because Howie knows his lapdogs will get fired if they don't come up with a good offensive and defensive coordinator, and then he's going to lose power again. And Howie doesn't want that.
I don't know who they're
say-
going to get.
I will say in this to blame, Howie does play a role, because for me, unlike Gene, I do feel that the personnel and defensive side of the ball should have been better. So that's Howie's fault. So Howie does have a piece of blame here.
Because why? He doesn't draft as well as he liked to believe. Therefore, you got to trade for Darius Slay.
No, he doesn't
gotta-
draft. Well, he drafts.
You got to trade for a James.
But
You got to go get a
don't
James
have the
Bradbury.
people- He don't have the people in place to develop. The problem the Philadelphia Eagles has is we can't develop certain positions. We can't develop a cornerback to save our lives. We can't develop a safety to save our lives. And if the guy comes in and he's good, cool. But if he needs to be developed and taught and trained how to play, it's not happening so far.
Yeah,
in
like
the
how
history of
Rasul
Philadelphia,
Douglas left here and got better.
because he got coached.
It's like, what?
When you coach a young guy, he gets better. Unless he just doesn't want to be coached, and he's going to flush out of the league. That's why I want, and I keep saying Wink Martindale. I want a guy. I don't about being nobody's head coach. Let me do my side of the ball. Let me make that great. Leave me the F alone and let me do my thing.
I'm
We
gonna
had
ask,
that for so long with Jim Johnson.
who wants to play trivia? Who thinks that they're very well in tune?
Into my Eagles trivia? Or,
Nope. That's not what I'm talking about at all.
Hey, we can play the trivia. I think we'll see how it goes.
Do you guys want to do you two together as a group, or do you guys want to go individually?
Whatever Godfrey wants to do, I don't care either way.
I need your hands up so you're not looking anything up on the computer.
let's go as a group. We'll be team personnel.
All right. Well, it's gonna be a personnel. I'm gonna ask you guys a question, and I'm gonna let you guys.
I have my hands
I
here under
need-
my chin.
11 people start on the Detroit Lions defense. Name 5 of them.
Hutchinson.
Hutchinson, yeah.
Watson.
CJG, Sage Gardner Johnson,
Yep, that's
Mhm,
2.
that's two.
Brian Branch.
That's 3.
What's that raggedy safety? They got another safety. I can't remember his name. Some other
the Thor looking dude that plays linebacker.
I know.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I can't remember. his
I would
name.
even give you that probably. You're talking about Alex Anzalone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thor Odinson
4.
Yeah. And
No,
then
Marty, stop it.
and the big guy that plays defensive tackle. What's the fat guy's name?
I don't know the fat guy's name.
I can't remember the fat guy's name.
I know you're
Can't
talking
use
about.
one Guardy just put in the chat either. And this is my point. You want to try a different team? Want to try Buffalo Bills? Personnel doesn't. Here's the. And
I
this
can
is
name
what-
5, but they're not playing. They're hurt.
No, but I'm talking about current players and playoff teams. So here's the point, right? Personnel
Floyd,
wise,
Milano.
stop. The point I'm trying to make is Josh Pascal, Alim McNeil, Benito Jones, Aiden Hutchinson, Derek Barnes, Alex Anzalone, Cameron Sutton, Kendall Vilder, Brian Branch, Ifatu Melakfanwu.
Right, Damien, the fat guy.
And my point I'm trying to make is if you took that personnel and you traded the entire personnel for the Philadelphia Eagles and you gave Aaron Glenn that personnel, that team would be better, not worse.
But you know what Detroit does? They run the ball.
But that's a coaching issue, Godfrey, and that's what you won't get through your head.
No, but that's a coach issue, but you're hiding your defense that way. And if a team stops the run, your defense will get exposed in the playoffs. They will. It's going to happen to them. When they win next week,
Godfrey,
you don't think they're going to get exposed?
But Godfrey, you're right. You're right. But the reason that they're not getting exposed is because the coaching is doing a good job at masking defensive efficiencies.
But that doesn't make the players good. It just means it's keeping their ass off the field.
What I'm saying is if the Philadelphia Eagles had Aaron Glenn as their defensive coordinator, Raheem Morris, Brian Flores, Wink Martindale, they would be a top 10 defense with the personnel they have. I'm not saying they're going to be San Fran or Baltimore. I'm saying they'd be a top 10 defense. Bro, Rex Ryan took the 31st ranked Jets defense and in 1 year made him 8th, and in 2 years made him number 1 in football. They made a couple changes. Of course they did. But the 2006 Jets were awful. Go look it up. Go look it up.
Lions are ranked 19. Rams are ranked 20.
And the Eagles are ranked 26th. With
The
better
Giants are ranked
personnel.
27th. I mean,
The Eagles are ranked 26th with better personnel.
Eagles have a weird. I mean, they beat a lot of the playoff teams in the regular season,
I would say
and they still.
they
shit
would
the bed.
definitely be better if you gave them another coordinator, but there's still holes
Yes,
that
I
would be
agree.
exploited by anybody. So I don't think it would be top
But-
10, but I do think it would be better. If you wanted to go somewhere like 15, 16, I could rock with you if you give them a better coordinator.
Who's the best defense in football, in your opinion?
The best defense.
Yeah,
Best defense.
in football.
I mean, remaining,
past
or we're
year-
just talking about in general,
This
just regular
past year,
season.
I'll probably say like Cleveland.
I'm going Baltimore.
I like Cleveland this year. I think
So,
Cleveland, 'cause
I'll-
the pass
I'll-
rush was dominant.
Well, hold on. I'll do both because you said there's holes, and I agree with you. There's holes, but when you look at the Baltimore Ravens defense, there's holes. The reason that they're so good is because they have 2 all-world linebackers. They have a nose tackle that's playing out of his mind, and they have an all-world safety. The personnel in Baltimore is better than Philadelphia, but they have holes. Matabuke is a hole.
They only gave up 26 touchdowns this season. Next closest team gave up 31.
They still have holes. Ronald Darby plays for that team. Is that not a hole?
Oh, it's a hole.
But
But
my
But hold on,
point
though,
being-
because Steven Nelson is looking good. He was trash with us. He's looking good with the Texans.
100%.
sometimes it's
because
scheme.
Coordinate. Thank you. I'm done. I give up. I'm done. Guys, we have 3 minutes left in the show. I'm going to give out
But
grades.
it can also
I'm
be
gonna give out-
players.
I'm going to give out your grades. I'm going to give it your grades. Jalen Hurts got a C for me this year. Brian Johnson, Nick Sirianni got an F for me this year.
That's where I was at.
Sean Desai got an F from me this year. Matt Patricia got an F from me. Cool McCain got an A. D. Godfrey got an A. And Gene Wolzek got a C. And that's my grades for the year. And that's how I'm going to end Birds Deep for the year.
I was with you on
Gave
this.
himself a C.
I'm with you on the grades with the F for C for Jalen, F for the coaches. That's where I was at coming into the show thinking about it. I don't know, man. It sucks being an Eagles fan right now because I just feel like one of these jerk offs are going to be back. We don't want them.
It's going to be the lapdog. The lapdog is going to be back.
It's oh man, they're working the yellow pages trying to find offensive coordinators. Like, hello.
Well, not just coordinators. They got to find a staff.
They have
Because
to
it's
find a
gonna take-
coordinator that will stay. Because
Yeah, a
problem is
defensive coordinator that will stay.
no, the offensive coordinator will stay. Because the problem with this is if you find an offensive coordinator that's good, and then they get a head coaching job, you're putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole.
But that guy should have someone under him
And
that
that's
could
why-
be good too, though.
And that's why
right?
I like Wright, because I think it's going to take a couple of years for Wright to rebuild itself
I-
to where people would go get
I
him.
completely agree with you, Cole.
Yeah,
I like
he'll be
those two
safe
guys.
because
I want Wright and I want Martin. That's who I want.
I said that
And then under Wright, I want to have a up and coming positional coach that can be
a Bobby
groomed
Slovic type. Yep.
to, yeah,
They
to
don't grow on
take that
trees,
role
but
when
yeah, I
he
get it.
leaves. But the thing is, you have to identify that guy early on and say, all right, we're going to have this guy sit in some of the meetings and start learning those things and not just
Yeah.
wait until it happens and do like, oh, no, we need one. So we're just going to grab somebody. Oh, Jaden likes him. Let's do him.
Plus, there's a question of does Reich want to coach anymore?
They called them. We'll
So
find out.
it's the contract. It's the
Guys,
contract.
we will be back in 1 month's time to talk about the Birds Deep off-season post-Super Bowl. We will back another month after that. We're going to do monthly shows up until the draft, until we come back full-time for Birds Deep. But this is our last show of the season, and I didn't want it to be this early. I didn't want it to be
Yeah.
this friggin' early. If you asked me a month and a half ago, I'd say we'd be doing Birds Deep until at least the
at
NFC.
least the NFC Championship game, right?
Yeah. I felt like a couple weeks ago, I was like, yeah, our last show is gonna be after the first round. I was hoping we win one and get into the second, but I was,
Guys,
I didn't expect to win anything, man. I was hoping we would because
you were right. You called it
Team.
first. You called it first. You called it first.
sometimes you don't want to be right though, man.
I know.
yeah. Yep.
Sometimes you don't want to be right.
Cool. I love you, brother. As much
Love you
as we
guys.
argue or debate on the show, it's fun. It's all in fun. I love you. Godfrey, I love you. As much as I call you out and scream at you, I love you. I gave you guys both A's. I gave myself a C.
We would have gave you an A too.
Don't
would've
give me an A. I definitely went off the rails a couple times this year.
Okay.
I need to be
We all did though.
great.
We all went off though. If we're docking for going off the rails, you can't give me an A.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to Birds Deep. A failure that was. I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. That's Cool McCain from Eagles Elite and the Play Callers podcast. And there's his link tree, by the way.
Yeah,
And then
because that's too many to
Godfrey-
talk about.
Does it got your OnlyFans on there too?
It does. Cool is definitely one of those guys. But Derek Dempsey gets an A for his fandom. He's the number one fan in the whole month of the last month of the year.
I've
for
seen
Wild
Derek
Fire.
consistently, so shout out, appreciate you for that, definitely.
And D. Godfrey and myself will be joining the sideline crew in about 13 minutes with Guardy 3 and Kyle Edwards to discuss the divisional round of playoffs. And I promise you, I am eagled out. If they start talking about the Eagles, I'm going to sit back and relax. I'm done. Thank you guys for tuning in. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
Fly Eagles flying to the offseason, man.
I just gotta say, damn, not the fat guy.
So the reason I had this background is because this is where the Eagles are at right now for the rest of the playoffs. Somewhere in the room because they're not playing.
Yeah,
All right, y'all.
sounds about right.
Thanks for tuning in.